She is on. Roll call, please.
Mr. Erickson,
Here.
Mr. McCormick,
Here.
Mr. Banks,
Here.
Mr. Hardy,
Here.
Mr. Walker.
Approval of the minutes of December 19, 2024.
Make a motion to approve. Support.
Moved by Banks, supported by McCormick. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Changes to the agenda. Would there be any changes to the agenda? Therefore, I'll look for approval of the agenda as written.
So
Make that
moved.
motion.
I'll support it.
Made by Hardy, supported by Walker. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Public comment. Would we happen to have any public comment? Hearing none. Ms. Martin, our drain commissioner.
Good morning.
Morning, Michelle.
I just wanted to give a little bit of an overview of what our office does. It's not really an annual report per se, that'll be coming to Tracy probably by the end of the week. So a couple of things on here from a couple of years ago, but some of the stuff is stuff that we did this last year. So, a little bit of history, next slide. As most of you may all know that the state of Michigan was sparsely populated years after some of the surrounding states because of the swamps and mosquitoes. Michigan State University back in 1859 had all but 100 students and one faculty member and all but one faculty member that had contracted malaria. And the key to the settlement in our state, the success of the settlement was drainage. So once we started settling or putting the drains in, then we were able to settle more and have farms and be able to get rid of malaria, which was huge. So one of the things, drain commissioners at that time were at the township level, and they ended up moving in 1897. It was abolished at the township level and moved to the county. So, and right now, well, as of this information a couple of years ago, with the having 10 million acres of farmland, that is probably reduced now because of the addition of or the implementation of renewable energies in some of our farmland. So, next slide. Since those early years, obviously, drain commissioners have been given more statutory requirements with the stormwater, inland lakes, parks and rec, like improvement boards and different things like that. Next slide. The APA status that we have, for managing our own drain projects, and as we've talked recently, we are also the county enforcing agency for soil erosion, which is not a statutory requirement. Next slide. When I first started, there was not a sufficient way to keep track of or to manage the soil erosion program. So I built a database out of Microsoft Access, and every single one of those buttons on that form execute an action. And so at the upper left, we have a new permit form. I can hit the list of open permits, for example, that button. Go to the next slide on that. And it will bring up this particular page. So any permits that are open, they're listed in alphabetical order by landowner name. So if I have a customer call in and have questions about their permit, I can pull them very easily from this form. Next slide. This is the new permit form, and everything that's on the permit application is entered in here. All the money, contractor, under the site plan A, B, and scan permit, we can attach the actual permit application, the permit itself. If there are any plans, we can attach those. If there's a stormwater agreement, like natural river permit, Eagle permit, anything like that, we can also attach here. So everything is in one place. And on the very upper left, you can see an inspection button. And if we click that, next slide, it'll take us to an inspection form where we fill out all the information from an inspection. And then the upper right, you can kind of see that there's photos, we can attach any photos that were taken during that specific inspection, and click on that, and it'll pull up all the photos from that. Next slide. This is an example of the inspection report that is generated from that previous form. And we used to mail them all out to the landowners and the contractors, but now we try to get all of their email addresses so that we can save money that way in time and be able to send that to them very quickly. Next slide. At the end of the week, we can generate this report very easily, all the money that is brought in. We can generate this report, generate the credit card report, and submit it to the treasurer's office at the end of the week. Next slide. This is a comparison from 2017 through this last year of new permits that were issued and permits that were renewed. You can see it kind of peaked in 2020 and is kind of leveling off now. This last year, 2024, we had 144 new permits, 34 renewed, for a total of 178. And because we have previous permits that go from year to year, at this point right now we have 217 total permits. Next slide. Not only do we have single family residences and commercial sites, but we also have industrial sites. This is an example of transmission line upgrades that have been going on in the last few years in the county. And we also have a lot of the villages and the city that have been doing water line upgrades. Next slide. Approximately 101 drains right now that we are aware of. Some of them haven't been verified. Some of them, a lot of them haven't been touched in decades, but we've been working on that, trying to do legal reviews. The majority of our drains are open ditch, and some are both open and enclosed pipe, such as we have the ag run here in the Colonial and the City of Hart that are both open and enclosed. We have 72 that are financially active. They are considered public corporations, which means they can sue, they can be sued, they can borrow money from a bank. All these 72 accounts that are active right now are managed separately within one fund, the drain fund. We have multiple funds that are used. We have drain debt funds, we have construction funds, we have a revolving fund where we prefer to borrow from that if we can, as opposed to spending the money to borrow from a bank, and save the landowners that interest, and the fact that we are required now to use bonding attorneys, even if it's only $5,000, and that adds at least $5,000 expense. So having a revolving fund is great. We also have an equipment revolving fund, so if we use rakes, shovels, weed whip, some of the things that we've acquired in the last few years, we charge back using the MDOT Schedule C rates. Next slide. Drain maintenance. Some of that can be done mechanically and some has to be done by hand. The picture on the lower left is the Newfield #1 drain, and that is in Newfield Township, obviously. That one is kind of unique. As you can see, there's overhead lines in the middle of this field. Wolverine Power upgraded their lines and actually put some of their poles within our drain because we share an easement, and some of the guide wires are within that drain. So I had a legal agreement drafted, and they signed it so that any backhoe work they are responsible for, because it's their poles and lines that are within that, and I did not want that liability on the landowners in that district, for us to be able to go in there and try to get around that their equipment. So we've also had cedar and autumn olive treated in 2023 by the Mesquite Conservation District, and this last year we had cattails and watercress, which are nuisance native vegetation, removed, and we also had phragmites removed from that particular drain. And we had worked with the DNR and with the Conservation District, both Oceana and Muskegon, to get the DNR property also treated on their expense, because when the wind would blow, would go across the street. So if we treated ours, then we would turn around and get more back if we didn't have them treat their section that they own. So, that drain in the middle is Newfield number 2, obviously done by a backhoe, a lot of dipping. And the picture on the right is the Upson drain in Grant Township, and that one was cleaned by hand this last year with help from the inmates in the inmate work program through the sheriff's office. Next slide. As an example of some of the things we run into during drain inspections, this is the Frucci drain in Weir Township, and obviously it's a mess. Kind of hard to document locations when the whole thing looks like this. So this is, like I said, some of the things that we run into. Next slide. And this was the inmates helping us clean that particular drain out. Next slide. That's also the Frucci drain being cleaned. This right here is the Weir number 5 drain, also in Weir Township. You can't even see a definitive flow on this drain at all. So this is after it was cleaned out using pretty much rakes, pitchforks, shovels, whatever. Obviously it's not a very easy place to get back in. So next slide. This is the Van Dyke drain, and this is in Grant Township. The upper left picture is the drain, which you cannot see it underneath all that vegetation, and the photo below it is after it's cleaned out. This drain is the Waldron drain, and it is located in Hart and Weir Townships. Obviously, it's a huge drainage system. We had a request from a farmer earlier in the year to clean out the one section towards the upper right along 104th. Later in the year, another farmer wanted another section to the east of 104th cleaned out. And our biggest project was at the lower end where we had 3 different parcels cleaned. We went in by hand with a bunch of retirees that I like to call them my volunteers. And they go in and they help clean out, and they got paths made for the excavator because some of the trees that had grown up within the easement would not allow the excavator to get in there. So we got in there and we got that all cleaned out. So, and this is some of the pictures from the Waldron drain prior to cleaning. Next slide. And this is a couple of pictures during the cleaning actually. So. Slide. This is the Allen drain, and this drain is in Weir and Crystal Townships, and that one was kind of a mess there. That was an inspection from last year. We went in this year and had actually I hired for one day the Owego County Drain Commissioner's office. They actually have drain staff, and had them come in and clean that or cut some more trees down on top of what was already down, some of the stuff that was in the easement, so that we could get in there and clean it up. And next slide, the inmates also assisted on that one, so, and the sheriff's office. So I think that was all the pictures that I had. So just a few of the things that we did in the last couple of years, but we did get a lot accomplished this year. Anybody have any questions?
A lot of work.
It is.
A lot of chainsaw work.
It is backbreaking.
Michelle, it appears, looking at the trees that were in there and where I live, that the emerald ash borer has really raised Cain with the county drains and with Carlton Creek and everything else in the last 5 years. Is that correct?
Yes.
You know, when I built on Carlton Creek, it was deep, and it was about, in the summertime, about 3 feet wide. And now with all of the, and Carlton Creek through there is a county drain also. And now with all of the ash trees that have fallen across it, it's about this deep, and it's about 10 or 12 feet wide. And the brook trout population has abandoned it.
I would imagine, yeah, and that's one that has us on our list too,
You,
to
you,
get in and clean, so.
you know, when we think about the invasive species, you know, it goes a lot farther than just, you know, a few trees falling.
Right, that between windstorms and the diseases that a lot of the trees are getting, and yeah, the autumn olive is huge, rose bushes, it's just poison ivy, it's a lot of different things to manage, and to have that many drains, and yeah, it's a lot to keep up with, so. We're trying to get to, but we can only get to, maybe a half a dozen a year with the type of
Well,
work, and after being abandoned for decades. And if somebody calls, yes, they're gonna get out there, but otherwise it's just we're guessing at what's the most important drain, because we can't even get out to inspect all of them.
the ones that you have shown on here were far worse than Carlton Creek is.
Okay. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. So you want to sit a little further down on the
They-
list?
well, you know, it would be nice because of the Brookville population. in
Right,
there,
exactly.
But, you know, these were ugly, if I can say that.
Okay.
It's hard to believe we planted all that autumn olive.
Oh, yeah.
I just, for the life of me, we used to go to ASCS and buy those things, and we planted them thinking we were doing
Yeah.
the right thing.
Mr. Harrison, if Michelle, if you would, how are the fees for the permits set,
For soil erosion?
for soil erosion, just
So,
for the benefit of the audience? and
okay,
some of the commissioners?
single family residences are $125, additions, garages are $100, ponds are $100, up to the first acre, and then they go up a little bit.
And who sets those,
Actually, you do as the, and then, that has to be approved by EGLE. Once anything that is done for the soil erosion program, that all goes to EGLE for their approval. So if we raise them, they don't usually have anything to say about anybody's rates, and we're pretty much in the middle between surrounding counties. Some are lower, some are a lot higher.
I imagine Kent County and Iowa County might be a little bit higher.
They are in some of them, and then they are a little bit lower in other ones, and, yeah, it's pretty close to, it's hard to charge that much money, but you have to figure at least, you're gonna go out and inspect that at least 3 to 4 times, and it doesn't justify the amount of money that we charge.
Thank you.
That was a good promotion of your department, I like that report. I'm just wondering if, you showed a couple of your reports, like your treasurer,
Oh,
people,
yeah, good.
and your permit, whatever, the inspection. Could you email a copy of those, just for,
Sure.
so I can review, not repeatedly, just
Right,
the next one, whatever's convenient.
I can do that, like I said, Fridays is when I query that I run to generate that transmittal report, for
Yep.
example, it'll say today -7, so it will give you the last 7 days of the money that was collected. If we have an end of the month that's different, then I might have to go in and change that query to be -10, as like the end of December is in the middle of the week, so it's like, okay, or we wanted the end of the month, so we had to manipulate the days on that. But
Yeah,
other than that, we have some changes sometimes that I have to -3 days or -10, but other than that.
so I think I saw one when you were going through, you had a list of new applications or permits, and then you had
Everything is over.
inspection list, and so just a couple of those things, so I can see
Yeah.
what
Sure.
your department's doing, yeah.
Okay, good. And you're more than welcome to come down anytime and show you.
Clean drains.
Yeah. Comes out of clean drains.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
You know.
Yeah, Mr. Banks.
One thing,
Oh, I'm sorry.
one thing you didn't mention is you also serve on every lake board in the county.
Yes.
And so that keeps you
Mhm.
not as busy as what you highlighted there, but another responsibility that
It does.
adds to the whole load.
And as you know, a couple of them are a little bit more demanding than others.
Some of them, yep, I was just telling Mr. Walker, some of them are pretty regular, some of them are once every 5 years, so.
Thank you.
Very good. Administrator Biard, Building Department furniture request.
So you have received 4 quotes in your packet. In addition, I had emailed one out, within the last couple days, for a local. Excel came in at 15,284. Integrity 9,780. Lakeshore 8,167. Taylor 9,191, and MediaTex was over 33,000. However, they are submitting an adjusted quote to us, which will be less than that, but I'm not, we don't believe it's gonna come in as low as these other ones, so, anybody have any questions on those, or?
Is there a recommendation from the building department, which, I mean, I assume they reviewed them and we're looking apples to apples as far as,
She said she didn't have a preference. I talked to her about that, and she said she didn't have a preference on those.
One of these had used pieces.
I do,
number of them hadn't refurbished.
some
Excel
refurbished.
was
Excel was used, yeah, some used.
steel case, and it was also, Hayward steel case. Basically all
On Excel,
pretty close.
yeah, and that one was one of the higher ones. Mr. McCormick had asked if we had any experience with any of them. The only one that I'm really familiar with is Integrity, just because we, purchased some of our office supplies and things from them, and they've done some of our furniture in the past, so.
Mr. Erickson?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hardy, do you know if some of this is offshore manufacturing and some is in-country manufacturing?
I think the majority of it's probably in country. Unless, maybe some of the seating,
I know some of the industries really don't deal much offshore.
right, and that's typically because of specifications for like the laminate tops or the powder coat on the legs, so it doesn't really lend itself to a import. But sometimes seating is import.
Mr. Erickson.
Yes, sir.
So is there any reason we wouldn't, if we don't have any other input or information, is there any reason we wouldn't just go with the low number?
I wouldn't think so, provided it fit all the specifications of what you were looking for. But, honestly, I've got to defer to Mr. Hardy on quite a bit of this and his experience in the office furniture. And did we get a bid out of Shelby?
Pardon me?
Yes, that was the last
was
one. I
the-
gave you the 33,000.
Yep.
It was the high bid.
Yep.
I mean, I'm familiar with Integrity. They've been around for a while. They're a pretty decent company. I don't know if that one was, I don't remember if that was the low bid or if they were slightly higher.
Slightly higher.
Lake Shore's a low number.
Okay.
Lake Service 88.
I do like that, Integrity, when they've installed some furniture or done any work, their salesman comes back in and checks with us to make sure everything's good. If we have any concerns, that kind of thing, so,
Are all of them installed prices?
yes.
You said
I do.
Integrity is who we've dealt with some in the past.
Yeah,
Yeah.
furniture and, office supplies.
Just my thought that, it may not be the lowest bid, but there's something to be said for a known quantity that we've been happy with in the past, and continue to build a relationship with, so,
Is theirs the 92,280?
97.
780.
97.
Yeah,
And I'm kind of with Mr. Erickson. I don't know a thing about office furniture, so I defer to Mr. Hardy and his expertise, but,
A lot of this is, I don't want to say cookie cutter stuff, but it is, but Integrity's been around for a while, and like you said, their service has been really good. I think the products from all of them are comparable. But if I had my choice, I would probably go with the Integrity bid, even though I know it's not the lowest bid, but we've at least had the most experience with them.
I agree with your recommendation, Mr. Hardy.
Mr. Beggs?
I would just say, I don't know if this came from the building department or from the vendors themselves, but I appreciate the refurbished and good use idea. I just appreciate that thought. I think that's a good use of funds. I mean, obviously, they're not gonna sell something that's near end of life, and so that's a good cost-effective means to get the job done. So wherever that came from, I appreciate it.
Therefore, is that a motion?
So
This
make that-
afternoon at 11:30.
Yeah. Good luck.
Mm-hmm. Office furniture.
Is there, were there any ETAs on any of this stuff? I didn't really see any. I mean, I think we talked about that just a little bit. We assume that since it's refurb or used, it's in hand.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that market is a big market. by the way.
Yeah, sure,
It's huge. I mean, between Herman Miller, Hayworth, and those types of operations, that they have actually storefronts and warehouses of stuff that they bring in, and a lot of it is in like mint condition. So it's a pretty big market. So that's not unusual.
Probably from all the hospitals that need to, swap out their office stuff every 6 months.
Well, and there's some
Gets a little bit of
places
dust on it
that
or
may
something.
order it and then change it so it comes back
Yeah,
in
yeah.
for resale again. It goes back to the refurb. So
I think we live in the right neighborhood for that.
I think so.
Very good. Department head report.
Morning, Sheriff.
Good morning. As I'm sure you all know, we're reacting to the weather, and we've had a lot of slide offs, a lot of cars in the ditch, a couple of more serious accidents as well. But it's pretty well seasonal to January, Michigan, Oceana County. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to see we put out a press release this morning on an incident from last night on Upper Silver Lake. There was a gentleman that was took off on a snowmobile and across the ice on the lake, and his visibility was extremely poor. He hit an island structure out there, and he was called in by some of his friends and family. Called him in after he'd been missing for a couple hours, and fortunately, one of our deputies, Brendan Neenice, ended up able to locate him, and I'm sure you'll be able to see some of the pictures on the press. It was a all hands on deck rescue. You'll see several different agencies involved as we pulled him off the ice and really saved his life. So it was a great evening. Really, it could have, as bad as it was for him, it could have been a heck of a lot worse. So we had a nice evening. And now a couple evenings previous, we had a young lady try to hang herself in the jail, and our staff was right on top of it and prevented her as she had wrapped a towel around her neck and in what appeared to be a very lethal method, but it was an unsuccessful attempt. And she's being treated by CMH daily, checked on, and she's on suicide. She has been on suicide watch. I think she's off that now, but anyways, the jail numbers are low. We've been at like 38 and 40, which is quite low, but some of the people we have there are still very challenging. So,
Opportunity campers.
yeah, we're busy with some serious things. Sir,
Do we still have something like 900 outstanding warrants, or
I'm sure we're in the 800s, 700-800, so you're right in that neighborhood. The hell of it is, a lot of those warrants, people have left town, and when they left town, they took their name with them and assumed a different one, and it's going to be, some of them will, it's very likely they won't be able to serve. Others, they might stand on file for a few years, and then we run across them. as you heard Judge Middlebrook here a couple weeks ago about how busy the court is, because my guys do go out serving warrants all the time, and on days, nights when it's slow, weather's poor, and people aren't moving, a lot of times my guys are knocking on doors, offering good tidings, come with me, you know, it's your turn to come to jail, but,
Tracy's moving.
yeah, right. So we still have, you know, we've got our own warrants, we've got a lot of bench warrants from the courts, et cetera, we've got child support warrants, so we've got a lot of warrants, we do.
Do we get our new warrants signed in a timely manner?
Some of them we do, and some of them, we have to struggle with greatly to get signed in a manner. Lieutenant Bosley's here with us now, and that's really Scott's job, but it's a challenging job. I know I did that for 8 years myself. It's, you know, that's a job that Scott will have to work at every day to make sure that when somebody's brought in under county charge, if they're arrested by the sheriff's office, that he's in charge of obtaining the warrant in a timely manner, and Scott's real good at it. It's, there's a challenge in the court apparently. It's hard to get time to get over there and get the warrants sworn to, and then there's not always a set structure on arraignment or when the time when people are called for arraignment, etc. A lot of times people are sitting here in jail when maybe they should be have been arraigned, have a bond posted on or had a bond set on them so they could be bailed out. But some of these things are outside of my control. They're just things that we have to suffer through as well. It's part of the continuing effort to cooperate with the district court to have that wheel of justice keep moving in a timely manner.
In the old days when Joe sat in the basement, was it easier?
When Joe was here, when Ben was here, you know, they always came in on the weekends, and we swore the warrants on weekends. They had set times. It was easier. It was just not trying to hurt anybody's feelings or being disrespectful, but it was easier. When there was set times, set schedules, we knew at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, we're going to take inmates over and they're going to be arraigned. And that was going to happen every day. It doesn't always happen that way at all.
Question.
Yes.
The difficulties you're talking about now these are 9 to 5 difficulties Monday through Friday. You're not even talking evenings, weekends. These are business hours issues?
Correct. We do still do some after hours warrants when somebody's brought in. If somebody's brought in on Friday afternoon, well, their 48 hours is going to be up before the weekend, before Monday morning gets here. So then Lieutenant Bosley he'll be getting that warrant done, getting the report done, getting it to the prosecuting attorney, having the warrant authorized, and then he might be in his car driving to a magistrate or judge, or he might do it online, etc. There are times when we still have to do it after hours.
Just a thought, could we deputize another to do weekends and evenings? A magistrate, deputy magistrate that came in and did that?
It would certainly be worth
Exploring?
You know, yeah. You know, in the day, you know, back several years ago, you know, they had a rotating schedule, and there would always be a magistrate or deputy magistrate or the judge would come in on the weekends and
Clean the desk off.
right, but those times have changed. Mr. Walker, I'm sure you got something to say.
Well, it used to be when I was a chief in Rothbury, when there were so many more arrests then, that if the guys made an arrest on a Friday night or a Saturday night, I had to be up at the prosecutor's office on Saturday morning or Sunday morning and get the warrants done, because we had to get them done in a quicker time then. And the other, you know, and then I'd have to, the magistrate, Ben used to be in at 9 o'clock on each one of those mornings. I'm sure he called your department and asked if there was anybody that needed to be arraigned.
He would always call.
Yeah.
And he would usually call, he would call at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning.
The other one that we're not talking about at all is if you have an suspected intoxicated driver who refuses to take the breathalyzer test, then you have to do an affidavit for a search warrant. And you have to swear to the search warrant and everything, and that might be at 2 o'clock in the morning and stuff. Or is that lightened up some,
Well,
Craig?
the process for that has gotten so much, the technology's helped us so
They-
much.
they
The
can
guys
do-
do it on their computers, on their laptops, you know, they can send it to the magistrate, assuming the magistrate has matching or equivalent technology. And, you know, so the blood draw, cause you're right, back in the day, we used to have to hunt up Ben and go to Ben's house, have him sign it, or, you know, or wait for him to fire up the fax machine. Good God, you're bringing back some good memories there. You know, that was great. Or when we were at the hospital, having to fax back and forth between the hospital, and that was a train wreck then too. But the guys are doing it mostly all via computer now. They're really it's a 1 page or a 1.5 page form. It's all, so blood draws are really.
This is gonna come up in a little while. Do you know if we have a deputy magistrate in our court system now who can sign warrants?
I don't know
Does Lieutenant Bosley know? Do you ever sign with a deputy magistrate?
The only magistrate that I have signed at all is with Mr. Kudo. Or the judge.
Yeah.
So, and when Lieutenant Hasty was here, I know there were several times when, district court was not available, that he would go chase down them. There was no more of an Oceana County judge than Judge Lambrix. Judge Lambrix, you know, he bled through Oceana County. He was always here for us. And when district court wasn't available, well, Judge Lambrix was. We would go knock on his door, he would invite us in and, well, what you need, boys? And, okay, let's do this. Judge Fox is, I'm sure he's drinking from a fire hose right now. I would guess him today at this point in his tenure. And hopefully we'll get there, but we're not there right now. So, and not my intention to come up here and burn down district court, but sometimes things are a little bit slower than it used to.
But a deputy magistrate might be able to smooth that out. I'm thinking someone.
You're right.
Not Shane, but someone that has that experience and knows the ins and outs.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
That could come down Sunday morning at 10 o'clock and clean the desk off like the old days.
Yep.
You can process a lot on a Sunday.
Yep, and you know, Ed Summers used to do it. Kerry Brown used to do it.
Yeah.
You know, I know I'm pulling some names out of the old hat,
Yeah.
but you know, Ed Summers could pull out an old cassette recorder and tell me what happened.
Todd Cheney during his tenure did them.
Pardon me?
Todd Cheney during his tenure.
Todd Cheney did a lot of it, right, yep. Some of you're bringing up a lot of good old boys here that used to come in and do it. Yep. All right, gentlemen.
Very good, thank you.
All right.
Very
Thank you,
much. Any other department head reports? Seeing none, how about public comment? Come on, ladies, you drove all the way through the snowstorm.
It's pretty quiet out in Old Thompson these days.
Except last night.
Last night.
What's an island in Silver Lake?
Upper
No,
Silver.
upper silver.
Oh,
That little.
Upper island, oh.
That's seawalled all the way around. That'd
Oh,
probably be
yeah.
a real coop to hit with a snowmobile.
Stops real fast. Whoops. Great.
Very good, then. Hearing none, we'll adjourn the Properties, Environment, and Economic Development Committee.
And moving on. I'd like to call to order the Finance and Administration Committee. May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hardy?
Here.
Mr. Beggs?
Here.
Mr. McCormick?
Here.
Mr. Erickson?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Here.
I'd ask for approval of the meeting minutes from January 9th, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Beggs, support by
Support?
Joel. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, same. Motion carried. Are there any changes to the
Yes.
agenda?
Yes, there is. Consideration of the MERS amendment will be removed after several days of discussion and going back and forth and everything. We found that MERS made an error on looking at one of our retirees, so we do not have to do an adjustment in there.
All right, so noted.
And fortunate for all of us, we don't have to do an adjustment or look at it.
All right, any other changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I ask for approval of the agenda.
So move.
Moved by Erickson,
Support Walker.
support by Walker. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. Is there any public comment at this time for Finance and Administration Committee? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Administrator Biard, budget adjustment for boat grant.
So there was $104,429.50 that was received in for, the new boat for Marine. And, we need to do an adjustment to adjust the revenue and expenditure lines for that amount.
Mr. Hardy,
Yes,
may I make a comment on that?
absolutely.
When I saw that come in, I flashed back to the Oakley case, and I had the Oakley, if everybody remembers the village of Oakley, who had the pay to play with their reserve officers down there, and it went all the way to the Michigan Court of Appeals, and they did a published opinion that law enforcement agencies, had to release the names of people that donated to the law enforcement agencies. And it was a big case down in Livingston County, and just within the last 10 years. So I saw that there was an anonymous donor on this, and to protect that anonymous donor, I asked the administrator to get an opinion from our attorneys whether somebody could force us to release the name of that anonymous donor. There was nothing against the system. Somebody wanted to be anonymous, and I wanted to make sure that we didn't have to release that name. It took a couple times explaining things to the attorney, but the last opinion we just got yesterday, and Sheriff will give you a copy of that opinion. It appears as though, and correct me if I'm wrong with this, Tracy, it appears as though because the donations were done to a third party who was not a public entity, we can't provide, if we're FOIA'd for those names of those people, we don't have them, so we can't provide them. So it appears as though we're safe,
Okay.
and believe me, I was not, the only thing I was looking for when I saw somebody who donated something anonymously, I didn't want it to come back 6 months from now
Sure.
that we had to release that name. That wouldn't have been good for any of us. But Tracy, I think I'm